Trump investors are consciously trying to cause a recession, but the markets, they're cleaning out the dead wood, and then they're going to reflate and they're going to print more money than probably anyone's ever printed before. Third, fourth quarter of this year, through 2028, we're going to have a massive money printing situation, right?
What if I told you the biggest money printing spree in history is just around the corner? Arthur Hayes is making a bold call. He sees a massive economic shakeup coming, with governments scrambling to reflate their economies and Bitcoin standing front and center in the fallout. Right now, markets are clearing out the dead weight, but Hayes is watching for the moment when the floodgates open, when central banks start pumping trillions into the system. He says you won't have to guess when it's time to buy, because they'll tell you. So the question is, are you ready for the chaos ahead? Stick around as we break down Arthur Hayes' latest market thesis, his Bitcoin price target, and why he believes the biggest opportunity in crypto is still ahead. Before we get started, hit that subscribe button, because in this market, timing is everything.
Are we near the
I, I,
end?
I absolutely still believe we're in a bull cycle. Obviously, the bull cycle has been a lot more concentrated in Bitcoin versus a lot of the other altcoin sphere. And at the end of the day, right now, we are experiencing a lull in liquidity fiat money generation. In the United States, obviously, I believe that Trump investors are consciously trying to cause a recession, or at least the appearance of a recession, so that the Federal Reserve becomes on their side and lowers the price of money and increases the quantity of money. And also, if you think about it, right, regardless of whether you think, the political side of things, if there's a lot of fraudulent payments within the system and you want to get rid of those before you move higher, you can clean up the dead weight. And obviously that's going to have an economic impact. They're okay with it because they're doing it in the beginning of their administration versus, in 2026 before the elections. Oh no, let's go reform the entire government. The voting population is going to be very skeptical of that and say, oh, that's Trump's fault, that's Veson's fault, that's Elon's fault, versus there's probably a way that they can spin this as this is Biden's fault, this is the Democrats' fault. Again, whether or not you believe that doesn't really matter, but the markets, they're cleaning out the dead wood, and then they're going to reflate and they're going to print more money than probably anyone's ever printed before. You move over to the EU, right? I don't know if the Greens are going to come on side with the ruling parties in Germany to do this, constitutional fuckery to allow them to print as much money as possible to build weapons and rebuild their army. But if they don't do it this way, they'll do it another way. The sentiment is there. Europe wants to rearm, ostensibly to fight Russia, but they just want to spend more money at the end of the day. And so if it doesn't happen now, it'll happen later. They want to reflate. It might not happen in the next week to save your leverage long position in whatever you own, but that's coming at least within the next 2 to 3 years. China is just waiting. They're going to have some sort of agreement with the US and the rest of the world on how they want to reshape the global economy. Could be good, it could be bad. I don't know what it is. But once that agreement, or fuck you, we're just going to go our separate ways, whatever that is, they're going to reflate as well. So they're waiting in the sidelines. And then you have Japan, where the BOJ is trying to raise rates. We'll see if they get there or not. But at the end of the day, they're not trying to add more liquidity into the system. So you have the four major blocks, either trying a bit of austerity to clean up the dead wood, or in the process of reflating their economies. And we're in this period where we expected all this, policy goodness, and Trump's going to do this and do that. And you might end up doing these things, but at the end of the day, it was liquidity negative. And so now we're seeing the markets finally react to that. I think in the third, fourth quarter of this year, through 2028, we're going to have a massive money printing situation, right? America first, my nation first is inflationary. I need to rebuild every single part of my supply chain within my country to give jobs to people because they're losing them to robotics and AI, and to have resiliency in my defense space. That's massively inflationary. There's not enough private capital to fund it. They're going to print the money. And then you have essentially a declining population and this sort of robotics AI thing. How that plays out, I don't know, but politicians need votes. And so they're going to print money to make sure that people feel okay. Well, the economic system, and maybe whatever humanity is in and of itself, changes as well. Again, massively amounts of money printed, and then you have to service all the debt that they took off from COVID into the present. The U.S. pretty much doubled the debt in existence, and every other country printed money as well. So again, this is a short-term pain. We're clearing out the dead wood. We had a great run from 20,000 to 110 on Bitcoin, essentially, FTX lows until, Trump coin. And now we're having a 30% correction. It's pretty normal for a bull market. So I think, yes, people might have had a little bit too much leverage. Maybe they bought too many shit coins, but I think we're going to clear out all that dead wood. And I still believe that we could be 250,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. Does that mean that the particular shitcoin you own is going to be 100x higher? Probably not, because people are getting a little bit more discerning in the type of things that they own. But at least from Bitcoin perspective and the global, overall market capitalization of crypto, I think we're going to be much higher by the end of the year than we are today.
Great. Yeah. So, So let me guess the first signs that you would be looking for. Would the first signs of this be actual money printing, if the U.S. government starts to do QE again,
So I
starts to
think first
buy?
what's going to happen is, let's say we go to 70,000 or whatever it is. We need to see S&P at like below 4,000. 20,
Wow.
30% correction in the NASDAQ, something like that. Because at the end of the day, the US government needs the stock market to go up to make their finances. That's what the game is about. And so we're not going to see anyone fail or any financial stress until that shakes out. And there's going to probably be some bond market things and some currency things. Something's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to happen. We didn't. Could you have predicted that Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank and they were going to go bust within 2 weeks of each other? Probably not. Wasn't what you were thinking was going to be the cause of the Bank Term Funding Program and $4 trillion of spending that pumped Bitcoin up 5x from that point. I don't know what the thing is going to be, but I tell you what, S&P down 30%. The 10-year could go to 2% or it could go to 5%. Which one of those moves, somebody's going fucking bankrupt, and the Fed's gonna come in, systemic collapse, Sunday night. Oh my god! And it might not. Maybe it won't be straight up QE. Maybe it's first. It's we're gonna end QT, or we're gonna give the supplemental leverage ratio, or there's some arcane thing of the Federal Reserve Act that allows them to print some money and give it to somebody, and then then it's go time. And then I know, okay, there's a religion. Then I know China's going to come next. Okay, PBOC, let's go. Then Europe's going to go, okay, we're going to print some bonds so that we can go fight Russia and lose. Okay, boom, there you go. And then it's time to go. And then, so, I think Bitcoin is going to bottom before equities. And then if equities are really stressing or the bond market's stressing, Bitcoin is going to start outperforming, because it's going to say, okay, now we know the response. When there's financial distress, they always print money. It doesn't matter what the political leanings, left, right, center, print money. This is the system that we're in. We need the stress. We know what the response is. Survive the stress, profit from the response. And so that's our goal as crypto investors.
So it sounds like the signs will be very overt, and it almost sounds like you're suggesting that there's a high likelihood of a V-shape recovery, like it'll go down and then the response will come
I
out.
mean, it's not like we're going to go to 70,000. All of a sudden, there's a Sunday night emergency Fed meeting, and they're back at 110 on Monday. No, like you're going to know, when the Bank Term Funding Program happened on a Sunday night, and Treasury and
Yeah,
Secretary
exactly.
Yellen came out and said, "Okay, we're creating this new program."
Right.
Bitcoin rallied at 2 or 3%, but it went up 5x over the next year and a bit.
Okay.
So you have
Okay.
time. There's no reason to try to catch a knife. Okay, I didn't get the super liquidation wick on my particular crypto asset of choice. Don't try to hit that. Wait for them to tell you when it's time to buy. And they'll tell you exactly when it's time to buy. You might miss out on the first 10% or 15%, but you'll get the next 5x without losing 50% of your stack trying to figure out when they're going to start printing the money. They're going to tell you when to print the money, and then you know what to do.